I'm gonna do what's called a pro gamer move.
Today we're looking at the worst special moves in every Mortal Kombat game. As requested by viewers like you, these attacks are either completely useless or simply make the game harder to play. So please post which attacks you think are the worst in the comments down below, and without any further ado, let's get started. So as always, we're going to start off with MK9, and before making videos like this, I try to do as much research as possible, and RioMK already had a video on this topic covering Katana, and that video was very well done, but while watching it, I thought, you know, what about Rain? Rain had that one move that nobody ever used, and sure enough, Rio made a video about that as well. So once again, shoutouts to RioMK for covering the 2 worst attacks in Mortal Kombat 9. So in my humble opinion, Rain takes the cake for having the worst special move in the entire game, and its name is H2O Boost. Now this move gives him a damage buff, which is nice, I suppose, but outside of combo videos, you're never ever going to see this move, and there's a couple of reasons why. Reason number 1, the startup is absolutely ridiculous. Look how long it takes me to jump when I'm holding up, right? The thing takes forever. I think it takes over a full second just to start up, or close to a second. And that's an issue because MK9 was very fast, so even if I knock somebody away like this and then go for it, chances are they have a wake up or a teleport or something that can close the gap very quickly, and as you just saw, I can't block when I activate this. And that's honestly the final nail in the coffin. Not being able to block in this game is an absolute death sentence. Characters had meterless combos that did a ton of damage, and then other characters like Cyrax and Smoke had inescapable resets that led to even more damage, and if you didn't have Combo Breaker, you were just done. And then things just keep getting worse for Rain, because I don't think NetherRealm understood how important blocking is in this game. It's not just for defense, it's also for mobility. You can dash and block immediately in this game, and for a vast majority of the characters, that was key for getting in or backing up, all that stuff. It made your character at least twice as fast, if not more so. So when Rain activated this buff, not only could he not block and give up all defense, but look how much slower his mobility is. He can only backdash and do a second backdash or just keep forward dashing. He can no longer cancel with the block button. So not only was his defense absolutely gone, which opened him up to a bunch of combos that could just kill him, but his mobility also took a massive hit. And that's an absolute deal breaker in MK9. You have to have the dash blocking. And of course this move had a bug as well, so Rain could actually cancel his super kick with a dash, and Shang Tsung can do something similar in MK11. He doesn't dash, but he can cancel it at the cost of some meter. And being able to cancel super kick was a big part of Rain's pressure. He could dash and go for a throw, or just go for more pressure. It was one of his main gimmicks that he could cancel this move and just keep assaulting you. However, wouldn't you know it, if you canceled this, it would actually remove his H2O buff. Shoutouts to RioMK, because I did not know about this bug before watching his video. For whatever reason, if you dash cancel with Rain, it will exit his buff. And yes, I do think this is a bug, because I doubt NetherRealm intended for the move to behave this way. So hopefully now you understand why H2O Boost is the worst attack in the entire game. And honestly, I'm not sure why NetherRealm even gave this move to Rain, because when it came to damage, his combos were some of the best in the entire game. I mean, sure, he didn't have unblockable resets like Cyrax or inescapable resets like Smoke that led to even more damage, but when it came to a basic combo like start to finish, Rain had some of the best damage in the game. However, the one silver lining is that as a result of his damage, he never needed this special move anyway. He never needed the damage buff. However, one more special move that many consider to be the worst in the entire game is Katana's fake out kick. Before Rain came out, this was undoubtedly the worst move, because its only attribute is that it hits low, but the thing is, the startup is kinda long, so you can definitely see it coming offline. And then on top of that, 90% of Katana's attacks were highs and not overheads, so as a result, you never had a reason to fear this low. You could block low all the time because there were no overheads coming. So for example, her other special move that kicks, this thing hits high and then its alternate is the low, the fake out kick. But how is it a fake out when there's no overhead to fear anyway? Seriously, all of Katana's attacks are highs for the most part, and as a result, you almost never saw this move. However, I have actually seen it used at high-level pro tournaments, and I've even seen it land, which is honestly quite shocking, but my point is you've actually seen it at competitive play, whereas that is not the case for Rain's H2O Boost. You would never see any sane person ever use that move at a high-level tournament. And next up, we have Mortal Kombat X, and this is the only game where I didn't know right away who had the worst attack, because for the most part, characters either had special moves that were great or just kind of okay, and even the ones that were useless still weren't an active hindrance to your character like Rain's H2O boost. And as a result, I asked around to some pro players and also some YouTubers like, hey, who do you think has like the worst special move in Mortal Kombat X? And a lot of them said Bo' Rai Cho's Drink. So this move activates a lot of new special moves, and some of the existing special moves also just get better, like straight up. However, if you go a total of 10 seconds without drinking, then Bo' Rai Cho will vomit, and this opens him up to a punish from the opponent and also stops whatever he was doing. Now to offset this, the developers give you a lot of chances to drink. You can drink after his throw, for example, or after a lot of command throws. However, even so, every time you go for a drink, you're still giving up your pressure. You're giving up your offense and giving the opponent a chance to counterattack or turn the tables on you. And keep in mind, I was being literal when I said this character will vomit during absolutely anything, even his X-ray. If you haven't drank and 10 seconds goes by during your X-ray, he will interrupt that to vomit. And as a result, a lot of players would just never go for the X-ray in this variation, if they use this variation at all, because the truth is Bo' Rai Cho was actually never a bad character. 2 of his 3 variations were honestly quite good, and when he first came out, he was doing very well in tournaments, and I would have never considered him a bad character. Honestly, even this variation, the Drunken Master, is not terrible, but it is definitely the worst, because having to drink all the time just to give up your offense and make sure you don't vomit is a lot of hassle and unneeded responsibility in a game like this that has so many 50-50s to block and just a bunch of nonsense, and on top of that you gotta have a little timer going on in your head. It's just a bit too much to worry about in a game like Mortal Kombat X. And it's a shame because I love drunken boxing. I think it's one of the coolest fighting styles in all of existence. I get that it's mostly for show and you wouldn't see it in an actual fight, but it's just a joy to watch, and it reminds me of Jackie Chan's Drunken Master movie. So if Bo' Rai Cho ever returns to Mortal Kombat for whatever reason, then I think Drunken Fist should be his default fighting style. It's just too cool. And if you've watched this channel before, then you already know who has the worst special move in Mortal Kombat 11. That title goes to Terminator. His endoskeleton special move is by far the worst in the entire game, and it takes up 2 slots for reasons that I can't understand. This form activates when Terminator is killed during the final round. However, in this form, he loses access to pretty much every special move. He can't dash, he can't jump, he can't throw, and he can't block. Now to make up for this, NetherRealm gave him armor, but I don't think they realized he has to be low on health to activate this form, and as a result, he can only armor a couple of moves before he's dead. And once again, he can't dash, so the opponent can just back up, like backdash repeatedly, and then throw stuff at him, whether it's a projectile or an environmental, any number of things, and he's bound to die before he even gets to you. I think NetherRealm could have salvaged this move. I think it should have been something that happens by default, so no matter what, he always has this move. And then on top of armor, also give him damage resistance, so raise his defense so that the enemy attacks hurt less. And I mean a lot less, like maybe half the damage they would normally do. That would actually give him a chance. And if it's not a default special move, at least make it 1 slot, because then it could still be kinda viable. However, before we had any DLC, the title of worst special move in the game went to Scarlet thanks to her blood ritual, and ever since this move existed, it has never been buffed by the developers even once. So allow me to explain why this move is so garbage. So for starters, the startup and recovery is very long. You can hold it down, but once you release it, there's a lot of recovery. And as a result, if you dared to do this move when the opponent was anything less than full screen, they could just move in and punish you. And even if they were full screen, if they had a teleport, they could still punish you on reaction to this move. Now, some would argue this move could be used to kill the opponent when they're low on health, but look how long it takes to actually deal any damage to the opponent. It doesn't happen instantly. And even once the damage does start, look how small the damage is. Look how little their life bar is draining. After the entire thing is done, they've lost like what, 3% health, if even that? Meanwhile, Scarlet has actually taken more damage herself, so if you don't kill the opponent, you've actually done more damage to your own character with this move. Now once again, there were some ways that NetherRealm could salvage this. I think maybe the option to amplify so that she recovers instantly and does a chunk of damage to the opponent, that could be pretty cool. Or maybe just have the amplified option armor or parry, that way if she's hit, she actually counters you. That could be really sick. Honestly, any of these things would have been a great idea, but NetherRealm once again never touched this move. And if you only recently started playing this game, you may not realize why it's a big deal because of custom variations, but when this game first came out, there were no custom variations. You only had 2 and you had to pick one. And wouldn't you know it, Scarlet's best variation was crippled by this special move. She had 3 and this was one of them, and it crippled her at the very start of the game because she had this special move that you would just never ever use. So before we had DLC, Scarlet had the worst attack in the entire game. And then finally, as an honorable mention, we have Shao Kahn's taunts. These moves have very long startup and recovery, over a full second and a half. So like you probably already guessed, the opponent can punish you on reaction to these things. Even if the buff does activate on them, they can still hit you for a full combo. And it's obvious that NetherRealm meant for this to be a reference to when Shao Kahn was a boss, because he would always taunt you, and whenever he did, you got a free combo on him. However, I think the developers forgot that Shao Kahn was broken as a character, like he was really strong, and as a result, the taunts were like a mercy to the player. It was your one chance to go in and actually hit this guy. He's literally giving you a free hit because he's so broken and he knows you can't win anyway. That was the entire point. Whereas Shao Kahn in MK11 started off being the worst character in the entire game and stayed that way for a majority of the game's cycle. In fact, some would argue he's still the worst character in the game. Now, I personally don't feel that way. I think he's bottom 3 or bottom 4. I don't think he's the worst, but a lot of players will tell you he's always been the worst. And as a result, having a taunt that leaves you open for a full punish does not make any sense because he does not have the overpowered nature to balance it out. And once again, many players have had great ideas of how to make this better, like spend a bar to amplify and make it recover much faster. That way it's a lot tougher for the opponent to punish. Or just have the amplify give him armor, just like Nightwolf. He already has a move just like this. It buffs his damage, and if you amplify, he gets armor to stop you from punishing him. Why not just give that to Shao Kahn? I think it's a very good idea. However, none of those buffs ever came. Shao Kahn's taunt is still pretty much the same it's always been. So with all that in mind, you may be wondering why I have it as an honorable mention. Well, it's mainly because the third hit of this attack string was changed to an unblockable, and if he lands this final hit after taunting you, he gets a crazy damaging crushing blow. And when the game first came out, this didn't matter because the third hit was just a regular attack that you could block, but now that it's finally unblockable and is a legitimate 50-50, he could theoretically land this crushing blow. And even if he only gets the final hit, just look at the crazy amount of damage this crushing blow actually does. My goodness, 30% all by itself. That's essentially a fatal blow that you can't block, so you have to be on the lookout for this thing. And now let's say the opponent gets hit from the very start. Maybe I do a frame trap or I whiff punish, any number of things. What's the damage like in that situation? It's going to shock you. It's actually way up there. I think it's 40%. Oh my god, look at that. As you can see, that's a very good amount of damage, and that one redeeming quality is why I have these taunts as an honorable mention. The unblockable mix-up is very terrifying, and as a result, the opponent's going to be neutral ducking all the time to try and avoid this thing, and that just means a special move instead on block to get your combo started. However, when all is said and done, Shao Kahn still does have one of the worst attacks in the entire game. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like down below. It really does help my channel out a ton. And then while you're down there, help me out for the next video, which is the best attacks in every Mortal Kombat game. What do you think the best special moves were in MK9, MKX, and MK11? I'm honestly not sure, so help me out in the comments section down below. And then finally, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. What are you doing? We got 300,000 subscribers. Be a part of the best fighting game community on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, that way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.